bioelectric signals. So what are bioelectric signals? Human body have large number of organs, for example heartbeats, and that produce some kind of signals. Okay, and even when the brain thinks or imagines, it will create some different kind of biopotential. So what are bioelectric potentials? Our body produce their own signals which we can monitor, right? So these are called bioelectric potentials. Okay, for various functions body generate their own monitoring signals which contain some useful information, but sometimes it provides necessary information. Sometimes there is no relation between what we are getting and what we should interpret. We are getting very irregular signals, so it is up to our knowledge by which we can decode the bioelectric potential. So these signals are bioelectric potentials are associated with nerve conduction, okay, brain activity, heart beat, muscle activity, and so on. Okay, and let's see during um, during uh, brain activity or heartbeat or muscle activity, what is happening to a cells, okay, to the cells are, and how the bioelectric potentials are generated. Okay, what are the cause of the bioelectric potential? Okay, for that let us consider a cell. And a cell can be either in the polarized state or in the depolarized state. Okay, so polarized state is when the cell is in its resting position. So generally, if you take a muscle cell or a nerve cell, it consists of basically two types of ions, that is sodium and potassium. Okay, okay. So here, the body fluid consists of Na plus ions and K plus ions, and this is let us say this is a cell. Okay, so these cells contains channels, and those channels are sodium and potassium channels. Okay, initially what happened, the K plus channels open and the K plus channels goes inside, and Na plus channels are closed initially. So we have the ions Na plus in the outer layers and K plus ions and Cl minus ions in the inside. So K plus ions being more negative than Na plus ions, we have a net negative charge in the inner layer and a net positive charge in the outer layer. Okay, so initially what happens is that the K plus channels open, and K plus channels allow the K plus ions to go inside. K plus and Cl minus, both ions will go inside, and that will create a net negative charge. Okay, and under equilibrium state, when we take this measurement of the inside of the cell with respect to some uh, neutral point, then we get around minus 70 millivolt. That is, inside it's more negative than outside, and actually it is not a fixed value. Minus 70 millivolt is not a fixed value. The range is in between minus 60 millivolt to 100 minus 100 millivolt. Okay, so now when this cells when the cells receive some kind of excitation, okay, when this cells receive some kind of excitations, then the sodium channels open up, and due to which the plus ions, I mean Na plus ions, the positive charge is because of the Na plus ions, and these Na plus ions um, tries to move inside the cell, okay, and it forces the K plus and Cl minus ions to move outside. As a result, we'll get a structure something like this. So actually when a cell is excited, so the sodium channels open up, and this sodium channel goes the sodium ions goes inside, and Na plus and K plus and Cl minus ions moves outside. So as a result we are getting a structure like this. But here the cell is in um, the cell is in what you can say is mm, in in a very unstable mode, so it can't stay for a longer time in this position. So here in these cells we have sodium potassium pumps are also there, so that will dynamically change the position of sodium and potassium ions, and, and it will dynamically change, and finally the cell again um, return to this position due to the action of the sodium potassium pump. So if we see the um, the the generation of bioelectric potential, this one is also known as action potential. So when we provide a stimulus like this, so suppose the cell is at minus 90 millivolt, okay, when it receives some kind of a stimulus, it's the potential of the cell become less negative and less negative. But suppose the stimulus comes here, and here the stimulus vanishes. So the since the potential does not reach the threshold value, so this action does not takes place, that is the action potential does not takes place. But if the signal crosses this threshold value, then this action potential happens, okay. And when the cell moves from this minus 90 millivolt to this plus 20 millivolt, this this action is known as depolarization. And during this depolarization, the outside the cell what we'll have is uh, negative, and inside we'll have at this position we'll have positive cells.